where am I? Now I know where I am. I'm in my office, I'm talking to you on my computer. I know many of you are doing the same thing, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to where are we? What stage of life are we in? So I did a lot of thinking about this, life stages in motion. And it occurred to me, number one, that humans, and I've been reading about this and I've been thinking about this, that humans are a unique species that are born to progress, born to move forward. We like growth, we like forward movement. It's innate in almost all of us. It's baked into most of our DNAs. There are different stages of life where you progress in different ways. What I'm showing you is something I thought of. It's arbitrary. It's not scientific. It's based on my own observations. And what I came up with are 7 stages that cover roughly anywhere between 7 and 15 years in somebody's life. And it starts as a child, as you can see, goes to student, and to intern. That intern phase is probably somewhere around late teens, early 20s. Then a producer, then an investor, then a consumer, and then a legator. They're the stages that I came up with. Then I tried to come up with 2 characteristics that represent each stage, typical things that you're doing. So as a child, as an example, you're observing and absorbing. As a student, you're developing and learning. As an intern, you're doing and growing and doing. As a producer, you're creating and earning. As an investor, you're planning and accumulating. As a consumer, you distribute and enjoy. That's typically, think of like a retiree that's living on their money and enjoying the money. And as a legator, you give and enrich. So I have a coach myself, a high performance coach. When I first came up with this concept, I went over it with him and he said, I'm not convinced this makes sense because I look at these and I think I'm in all of these at once. And I said, yeah, I know. I had the same, it occurred to me that way also. But then I said, if I had to look primarily where am I came up between 2 stages and I didn't tell him what they were. And I said, so try to look at where you are dominantly, knowing that you have aspects of all of those. And he said producer and investor. And I said, interesting, they're the same 2 that I came up with. And he said, but I feel like I'm a student. I feel like I'm, an intern in certain ways because I'm being mentored and there's different things that are coming up there. I love to observe and absorb. I said, I get that, me too. But I said, I think that's also because you're very conscious, you're very present, and you're thinking about what are the best characteristics you can move forward. And that's really the point of this exercise. We're going to talk about what life stages you are in today, but what aspects, what characteristics you can use of the other stages to help you move forward in some of the things you want to do. That's really where we are right now. So I just mentioned me as an example, and I'm a producer and investor, but I'm certainly using elements of the student and intern of learning to, developing, learning, growing, and doing, and adjusting to current circumstances. That's where I am right now. An example is we're using technology today. I struggled with it a little bit at the very beginning, but generally I'm doing things I didn't even think or dream about doing 6 months ago. So at this time, and I'm also thinking about, people are having a hard time. So I've stopped several times, both to give money and time to some things over the last few months, because I feel very fortunate. Last night we had on Ray Lowe, and I'll mention him in a minute or two, because he calls himself the luckiest guy in the world. That's his brand. And in fact, I'll tell you that story real quickly. He's in the consumer legator phase of life. He's 79 years old, as he said it last night. He's a competitive swimmer. He sold his financial planning business, and he's now developing this new brand and trying to figure out what he wants to do with it. And he said the dominant characteristics that he's aspiring to are that of a child, observe and absorb. He's like, I'm just watching the world and figuring out what I want to do when I grow up at 79, which I thought was very interesting. So with that as a little background, let's go on to the exercise, which is on the next slide, and you have your handouts hopefully with you.